It's Christmas. So, what's the best DAW? Pro Tools, say the old people. Ableton, says the hip new youngsters. But me? I say my day one, my goat, Logic Pro. Cheers. But what is Logic Pro? And why do you like it so much? Great question. I'll tell you why. Let's talk about its start way back in the 1990s. We all know Logic as Apple's foray into music creation software. However, it did not start that way. In 1990, a company called Emagic, formerly known as C-Lab, created a product based on C-Lab's former designs of Creator and Notator called Notator Logic. Isn't that cool? It was originally solely released on the Macintosh, but later got a release for the Atari ST and the 94 Windows PC, all using Emagic's Log 3 dongle. But what really is Notator Logic? Well, it was a new way to sequence music. Better understood as a sequencer, Notator Logic used an arrange window, a transform window, an environment window where you could assign MIDI outputs, and most importantly, a score window to best create an environment where you could create music. You built your song through creating sequences and arranging said sequences till your song was completed. You could edit all of your MIDI through the arrange window using tools like loop, quantize, transpose, velocity, gate time, delay, or dynamics. Similar to Pro Tools today, Notator Logic uses a series of submenus or other little windows that could pop up for local use. These windows could be open and closed and resized for the personal use of the user. Overall, this tool, Notator Logic, had set itself apart from other big music softwares at the time like Pro Tools for its sequencing and quicker audio effect abilities. It used dynamic playback for the tools in the arrange window so that you could compare the before and after of the effects quicker with the slower technology being used. Pro Tools was mainly used for live recording sessions and didn't have the sequencing abilities of Notator Logic at the time, which set it apart in the music software field. Speaking of old technology, Emagic kept improving and innovating on their software, so much so that the Atari could no longer handle the power needed for Notator Logic. And with that, they dropped the Notator and became Logic. Logic was so powerful in the late 90s that on July 1st, 2002, the biggest event of Logic's life was about to occur. Apple bought Emagic and in turn also bought Logic, being the first computer company to buy its own music production software. Logic, now being an exclusive Apple product, shut down manufacturing for Windows computers. This was a big move back in the day because about a third of their audience, roughly 70,000 users, were on Windows platforms. Logic 5.5 was the last version available for Windows computers, and with new Apple versions, changes were coming. Now adding in the Pro moniker, Logic Pro 6 was released March 2004. This was Apple's full compilation of Emagic's products. They also introduced different levels of the product to get to a bigger audience. Logic Pro 6 was the full version with all instruments and effect plugins, Waveburner Pro, which was a CD burning service, and Pro Tools support from Emagic, all for $9.99. Logic Express was a stripped-down version for $2.99. And the new GarageBand was a very stripped-down version of Logic, available in the software suite from Apple, iLife. All products were purchased in a physical box, and it remained this way until 2011 with the creation of the App Store. Shout out the App Store. Later that year, Logic Pro 7 was released, and this product is what really added Logic into the Apple ecosystem. It gave an overhaul to the Emagic style and made it more similar to the other flagship Apple products like Final Cut Pro. This update really brought Logic Pro into the Apple product sphere, creating a quick and intuitive DAW with ability to move up GarageBand projects to Logic for seamless upgrade potential. It also added in the new Apple Loops and distributed audio processing, allowing for, in a very Apple fashion, the ability to use multiple computers on the same network to give more processing power to music creation. It also brought in 3 new instruments and 9 new plugins, for a total of 70 in-house plugins and 34 instruments. 3 years later, in 2007, Logic Pro 8 came out, and with it brought forward many workflow enhancements. quick swipe comping, a built-in browser, multi-taking, and production templates were all added in this update, and most functions could be accessed through a single view window, cutting out the multiple views that Pro Tools and, in the past, Notator Logic had. In 2009, Logic Pro 9 was announced at the low price of $499. This program introduced Apple's foray into Elastic Audio FlexTime, which allows you to quantize and edit audio similar to MIDI. As well as adding more plugins, after 2 years, Apple announced in 2011 that the price of Logic would drop to $199, which is its current day price. This price drop was huge for people like you and me, because now people don't have to spend $1,000 or $500 to get quality music creation products. They can now get a DAW for just $199, one-time purchase. With this, Logic Express, the tier between Logic Pro and GarageBand, was eliminated. In 2013, Logic Pro X was released to match Final Cut Pro X. Final Cut Pro X. Another current flagship Apple product. Its interface had a whole overhaul to match Final Cut, making the Apple ecosystem look how it does today. Many features were added in this update, such as Drummer, which was a virtual session player, Smart Controls, which allowed for many plugins to be controlled by one controller, and FlexTime's cousin, Flex Pitch, an audio editing device for pitch similar to Melodyne. Many things were rebuilt in this update to be more Apple-like, such as a new loop library, new keyboard and synth designs, track grouping, and improvements to score editing. Logic Remote was also released for the iPad as a companion product to Logic Pro. It's free to download and allows for a window from Logic Pro to be on your iPad for easier controlling. Logic Pro X remained this way for 7 years until 2020, when the X was dropped and it just became Logic Pro, how it is today. It was updated many times throughout the 2010s to compete with products like Ableton and Pro Tools by adding various plugins, loops, and instruments. It also, in 2021, added Dolby Atmos editing. Just this year, the newest update of Logic Pro was released, version 11. Version 11! And with it, it brought new session players for the bass and keyboard, similar to the drummer of the past. It also added 2 new AI-powered systems called Stem Splitter and ChromaGlow, 2 tools for mixing and mastering. That brings us to today, with the version of Logic that I use. Aside from free updates and cool new tools that Apple is always adding, Logic's life has seen a lot, all the way from Emagic to what we have now. I find these tools to be great, and it's really inspiring that new creators can get these tools, these professional level tools that artists they love use for only $200. It's an empowering feeling to know that everything that you need is at your fingertips. And when compared to its competitors with higher prices and having to pay for new updates, Apple has set itself apart in the music production software ecosystem, universe, landscape. Use Logic Pro. Bye. This is my Christmas present. Happy holidays, but I'm a Santa fan. Because, oh my gosh, I'm gonna faint. Knees locked. Choir stance.